Hello, and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths. We hope you're having a great start to your week. Denise and I are happy to have you here with us as we discuss questions and stories that you all have emailed into the show. Remember, if you want your question highlighted on the show, you can email us enlightenedempaths@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Facebook page. Just search Enlightened Empaths and you will find us. Should we dive right in?
We really should. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today, so this will be a good one. And our first one is, I think sometimes people like to hear the follow-up on questions and answers that we might have done. And this first one is from the listener who sent in the email asking for help about their bad luck cycle. And we had talked about that on a recent episode. And it says, the two of you responded to my inquiry on your latest episode of Enlightened Empaths. How do I even begin to express the gratitude I feel? I'm so honored to have that response featured on an episode of your podcast. Well, we love doing it. I'm so appreciative of the suggestions for psychic protection, as well as the mention of me needing to be aware of my own energy and the fear that time was triggering in me. I can't tell you how special I felt listening to this week's episode. Although the universe still tests me in small ways, things continue to get better in my life. This episode was such a wonderful reminder for me to stop and take a second to focus on my journey and to take care of myself. Thank you for that. The request for prayers and good thoughts to be sent my way at the end was so generous. I'm simply overwhelmed. I almost feel undeserving of such a gracious gesture. From the bottom of my heart, thank you both so much for such a thoughtful response. The episode meant so much to me. That touches my heart. How about you?
Me too. Oh, yeah, me too. Because I think we all know what it's like to feel like you're in a bad luck cycle. And you know what? One emotion comes to the surface the strongest is feeling alone in that bad luck cycle.
100%.
And so I'm just so glad we were able to highlight her question, give her some hopeful suggestions, hopefully positive, helpful suggestions, and that she was able to feel better about it. And I think it's another example of how when we all just take a moment to send a positive thought, a prayer, a gesture, some healing energy to someone, it really does help.
The way this person worded it, that, it was a wonderful reminder to just stop and take a second to focus on the journey and take care of herself. I think we all need that right now.
Doesn't it feel like things are speeding up?
It does. And just as an aside, I know that you feel the same as I do about this, sending so much prayers, good energy, and hope to all the people that have been impacted by the horrific weather lately. That's been heartbreaking to see, and please know that you're all in our thoughts and prayers.
Oh, for sure. I know so many people personally impacted by that. Our dear friend Asia Suler, who's been on the show many times with her apothecary's online store and in person in Asheville, was completely destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just so much devastation.
It is. So, I think the importance of all coming together and looking out for each other and reaching out a hand physically, spiritually, virtually is so, so important right now.
I agree. And supporting those businesses if they have an online way is another gesture we can do for those hit by this.
Yes, that's a really good point.
Okay, should we move on to our next one?
Yes.
Okay, it says we hear a lot about different clairs, remote viewing, etc., but I feel that we do not hear about telekinesis anymore. Something happened to me when I was young. Me and my brothers were around 7 to 10 years old. We had decided for some reason that we wanted to try levitating an empty box of cereal. We felt that we should do it in a totally dark room, so we went to the bathroom since it was the only room with no windows. We placed the box in the middle of the room and sat Indian style around the box. After 10 minutes of being quiet and concentrating on lifting the box with our minds, I got tired and wanted to check if it was working. So I placed my hand in front of me where the box should be, and nothing was there. After a few seconds of feeling around, I felt one of the corners of the underside of the box fall on my hand. I was shocked. I stood up, opened the lights, and asked my two brothers if any one of them touched the box, and they both said no. They are both bad liars, so I would have been able to see it in their faces if they did. My problem is that it was pitch black. So I don't know if it really happened because I hadn't seen it with my eyes and only felt it. So did it really happen? I'm a visual person. I think that seeing is believing. Do you guys think that it happened? Have any of you experienced anything telekinetic? Does it exist or is it just imagined? Well, telekinesis does exist. It's been tested. There's Uri Geller used to perform it on the Johnny Carson show sometimes. Remember him? So
I
telekinesis
do. Yes.
telekinesis is a thing that can work. I've never been able to do it. I do remember being a kid though, and all of us, staring at a spoon and willing it to move across the counter. And I never did the darkened room. But it's funny that this listener instinctively knew to do that because if you look at all the mediums from the spiritual era around the turn of the 20th century, they all had to be in a dark room. Now, I know the Harry Houdinis of the world would say that so they could perform their trickery, but if you look at the research that the study of psychological studies did in England and America on things like telekinesis, something about the darkness does actually help this paranormal phenomenon. I think it's something to do with the energy that's in our electricity and light bulbs. I don't know, but the darkness does help. Do I believe this happened? Yes, I do. I mean, we've heard of apports happening in all over the world, but if you go to Lilydale, you could actually take a workshop on apporting, which is where you send an object from one location to another just with the power of your mind. So to me, that's similar to telekinesis. I believe this did happen to you for a couple of reasons, but mainly that you guys were so young. There's something about youth and their open-mindedness that allows the mind, I think, to be more powerful than it is when we get older. That belief in anything is possible. I mean, gosh, when I was 7 years old, I thought my stuffed animals were real. So the thought of being able to move an empty cereal box, I'd be like, yeah, I can do that. So I think it's that openness that we have as children. And I mean, how else could the box have fallen into your hand if this didn't work? If even if one of your brothers was holding the box up in the air in the dark, I think you would have felt that gesture of some movement. And when he dropped the box in your hand, I don't know. If he was 8 years old and didn't giggle, he's a better person than I am.
Well, and I'm thinking too about if you've ever seen a trance medium, they sit in the dark. They remember the closets that they sit in, or if you're
Yeah.
going to do any kind of mirror work, they would put you in a darkened closet. So there is something with the dark. And as you were speaking, I was wondering too if there's a similarity between being able to use telekinesis and how those in spirit are able to have dimes show up or move the keys on the counter. Or I wonder if there's something with the energy that's very similar to the way people in spirit do it.
I bet so. Denise, okay, this is going to make me sound kooky, all right? So everyone be gentle. Don't come at me. Years ago, I want to say like 2009 or 10, so a long time ago, I was listening to a podcast. This is like early, I don't even know if it was a podcast. I think it was like the online, like remember Hay House had the online radio
Yeah,
shows? It might have
yeah.
been that because it was a long time ago. And I don't remember what the show was, but the host was talking about a contest that China was running called something like Are You a Superhero? And people would come in and show their powerful psychic moves. This one kid could he could see anywhere. He could see I think they called him like the X-ray vision boy because they one of the experiments they did was they put a safe in a room like miles away from where the young teen was. I think he was like 17, 18 at the time. And he was able to describe the room the safe was in, and he was able to unlock the safe. He knew the combination, I don't know how, and he unlocked the safe from the other room in another building miles away. And they kept
Wow.
testing him over and over and over again. And so he won the contest and then he went missing.
Oh,
I know. And I have tried for 30,000 ways to Sunday to Google that story. And I'm like, I know it. I know I heard it. I remember I was in my kitchen cleaning the kitchen while, like, you know how it was so vivid in my memory, that story. And I can't find any updates on it.
and it's unique enough that it's not something you'd make up.
Yeah, I was like, how did this not make mainstream news that China was having a contest? So I don't know. But if anyone's ever heard of that, please email me so I don't feel kooky. But anyway, I do think that this ability is out there. And I think, again, it's proof of the power of our minds and what our minds can create and destroy and birth and bless and manifest for us. All of it, all the good, the bad, and the beautiful.
I agree. And it is amazing, amazing what we can do when we literally put our minds to it.
Yeah.
Okay, our next one says, I very recently had a dear friend lose her son to suicide. I've learned to understand that people lose their life to mental illness and depression just as those who succumb to other diseases. Personally, I don't believe in hell. In fact, in my heart, I believe that the light would shine brightest to welcome home those who suffered such pain. I've had so many thoughts swirling around in my head in these past weeks. I've heard discussions on your podcast and others of our higher self always being in heaven. Seems that our higher self is always there and that part of us comes here to learn and experience. I've even considered the possibility of several pieces of us being in different places at the same time. So it's so hard to explain, but it makes sense to me. I'm open to the idea that we choose a path sometimes prior to being here in order to learn or experience something, or in order to take on a role to help someone else learn or experience. With all of this said, I guess I'm trying to find something to rest more comfortably with the suicide of a loved one. I guess the thought of only a part of us experiencing that pain is easier for me to think than the whole of us. That maybe we come here to one and are immediately whole again. When someone takes their life, do you think they go back and join their highest self? Did they feel that their time here was done? The thought of someone being in such emotional pain just breaks my heart. And I guess I just want to know, I want to try and know that they might experience at the time of death on a spiritual level. I hope this makes sense to any of your listeners who may have been in this place. I urge you to please not give up. You are loved. Thank you so much, ladies. You make a difference in so many lives. I hope you know that. There's a different grief, there's a different feeling, and I'm sure you felt this as a medium too, Samantha, that when you connect with someone in spirit who chose to leave, often what will come through is such a feeling of how harsh the world felt to them, or how hopeless it felt, or how never once have I ever had anyone come through and say it was for vengeance or to hurt someone. Never, ever, ever. It's always come through that someone had just reached a point where they had nothing left to fight, or it was an accident and it wasn't intentional. I've equally had that come through many, many times. I agree with this person that I think that our highest self is waiting for us. I think that there is no judgment or purgatory or hell that people who chose to leave. They may have different lessons or different work to do on the other side, but I don't think there's a punishment if someone has been in such pain that they choose to leave.
No, I don't either. And I've never seen punishment. I think it's like what Emanuel Swedenborg said, that you go to the level of heaven that resonates with your vibration, and you move through those levels of heaven on the other side as you heal. And so possibly if you have chosen to end your life and you're feeling a lower vibration, you might be in a lower level of heaven, but it's heaven. And you're surrounded by so many helpers, people who have gone through the exact same thing who are helping you to lift and raise. Now, with suicides and mediumship readings, what I've learned is there's no one size fits all. You're right, Denise. When someone who has chosen to end their life comes through in a reading, the energy is different. It's more hesitant. And for me personally, it's always been a little more difficult to fully connect with that energy because I think they're just afraid of what they, connecting with their loved one after their choice. Does that make sense?
It does. And sometimes I've experienced a sense of joy and they'll say, or they'll bring through, please tell them I'm happy again. Please tell them I'm like me again. If someone had struggled with substance abuse or addiction, oftentimes they'll make a point of like pointing out that their eyes are clear again. Look, it's me again. And sometimes they'll present at who they were before the depression hit or before the addiction took over, so that that person that you're reading for or the sitter is able to remember who they really are. Because I think that that's a huge part of this as well.
Yeah, I do too. And I've also noticed when people choose to end their life because of an illness, it's very different. It's a very different energy. Have you felt that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's different. But I do think that I've just never seen punishment on the other side, really. I've never seen that type of, especially with a choice like this. That's not anything um I don't think that's ever in our soul plan. And so I think there's always a lot of compassion, a lot of compassion. Um, there's a really good book, Testimony of Light by Helen Greaves, that talks about a woman who worked as an intuitive when she was alive on Earth. And when she dies in the 1960s, she is tasked to be a helper, to be one of those people who goes and helps people who are having a hard time transitioning to the other side. Now, that does include some people who chose to end their lives. It also includes people who end their lives naturally, but they have a lot of regret or sadness or anger. And there's just this beautiful section, most of the book, actually, I'd say a third of it, on these helpers and how they work with guides and angels to just fill these souls with so much love. And so I don't think that this person connected to our listener is in any pain anymore. I think they're being healed.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And I often will, I always say a prayer for the people that I connect with, but the life lessons that come in, the surrounding of that, of what that person experienced, the familial impact, the friends and family. I mean, that's a powerful life path to come in and work through those
Yeah.
lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, but definitely they are with their higher self, but they're also with a lot of other people. And given time, they'll be able to come through and give you all signs to affirm that they are okay.
Yes, yes.
Our prayers to you for sure. Okay, our next one says, "Hello, ladies. I have a little experience to share with you. A couple of months ago, my family and I had the chance to visit Yosemite National Park. My husband, our two kids, and I were taking a hike up Sentinel Dome, an elevation point from which you have a 360-degree view of the beautiful mountains. Most of the rock formations in the park are granite, but on that hike, we saw tons of gorgeous crystal quartz. They were whitish clear with some beautiful points and of a pretty good size, about a couple inches. I have fallen in love with crystals already, and I was dying to have one of those gorgeous pieces, which would remind me of our wonderful trip. However, I had read on the official website that you are not allowed to pick anything from the national parks. I was determined to respect that rule until I found this cute piece and I caved. Almost instantly, I started to feel faint, like I couldn't catch my breath. I'm pretty fit, and I should not be feeling the thinner air as much as I was feeling it, yet there I was, gasping. It seemed like a normal body response to taking hikes, but nonetheless, it was too close to the moment I decided to keep the crystals, so a little bummed about it, I put it down. We had a great rest of the climb, and after having enjoyed the views and a refreshing chat with some super kind people we met at the top, we made our way down. There they were again, these beautiful pieces of quartz all over calling me. Oh, I feel ya. I would have been the same. I caved again, grabbed one, and said to myself, I can always put it back, remembering one of your episodes when you guys told the story of a piece from Hawaii that shouldn't have been taken and it cursed the person who took it. But we're on our way down, and I thought it's all good. Lo and behold, we got lost. We couldn't find our way back to the trail. We couldn't be far, but it was getting darker and we had to head back so we wouldn't be driving those crazy mountain roads in the night. I grabbed the crystal from my pocket, said thank you and goodbye, and put it back. Only then did we find the right trail. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but I am convinced this was too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. I think I didn't have permission to take anything from there, and they were firm at reminding me I had to respect that rule. I took with me only memories and pictures. Wow, I 100% agree with you. I really, really do. I had
Well,
this experience when I was in Colorado a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, looking at the beauty of the earth, I just thought, I kept feeling the same thing, like the earth gives and gives and gives to us, and all we do is take and take and take from it. And I couldn't shake that thought. And then the next weekend, my kids came home and we were walking the beach looking for seashells. And I thought about that, Denise, and I was like, I'm always taking from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't take one seashell. But I feel this listener, if there were, can you imagine me, Denise, with beautiful pieces of quartz scattered across the
Oh,
trail?
you'd still be there.
I would still be there. I'd be like Little Red Riding Hood with my basket collecting them. So I feel you, but I think she's right. I think we need to honor that and leave it where it is.
I I agree more than 100%. I completely in my soul I agree because I'm always picking up rocks and sticks and twigs and stuff. And I read something recently about exactly what you just said, how important it is to give gratitude. I always say thank you, but to give an offering back, whether it's a little pinch of sage or tobacco, but not like from a cigarette, but actual tobacco. And that's another whole story of how it was sourced and well, we don't need to go into all of that right now, but it's important to, at the very, very least, show gratitude. But recently, my whole thing with finding the heart-shaped rocks all summer, and I found a bunch of them. It's crazy how many that I've found. And I found one the other day, and it was just so perfect. It was so cute. And I picked it up, and what I've been doing is I'll put it in my hand, and then I'll put it on my heart chakra, and I'll say, is it okay do you want to come with me? Is what I ask the stone. And I I talk about feeling kooky. I got this very strong message. No, I want to stay here. I've been here so long. I don't want to go. And was it a feeling? It was more, it wasn't like the rock was saying, hello, Denise, I don't want to go. But I was, you have to honor the energy of that. And I do agree because one time I didn't, and I got almost back to the car and I thought, oh shit, I've got to bring this back. I'm not supposed to have it. But so I love, love, love that the crystal let this person know, I want to stay here.
Yeah, I need to go back to my crystal mommy and daddy.
Yes.
I love that. And I remember when I was taking my Reiki classes, and the teacher said, when we were learning about sending distant healing energy, and she said, you have to always ask the person. And someone was like, well, what if, you're in Alaska and they're in Texas? And she was like, no, no, you do it in meditation. You hold their name or their image in your heart and you ask permission to send Reiki. And if you feel a yes, do it. If you feel a no, don't. And I was like, well, that didn't make any sense to me because I thought my subconscious could be like, sure, yes, of course he wants this distant healing energy. I could override that. But I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And I remember the first two times I asked about distant healing, I got a yes. But the third time and several times after that, I did feel a very strong no. And like you said, it wasn't words. One time I saw a stop sign, another time I saw a red light, but it's always a very strong feeling as well as an image.
Right. And you have to honor it. You
Yeah.
have to. And someone had said years ago, well, what about asking someone's higher self for permission? Like if you have a child or you have someone who can't communicate. And I think you have to tread carefully with that one
Yeah.
because we, if it, I think, well, again, so much of what we do is based on the intention that we're setting. Are we being of service? Are we trying to help? And in the case of Reiki, to send healing light. But there was someone who was going through a difficult time, and someone offered to do a healing session. I was the kind of the go-between between these two people. And the person, excuse me, the person who was ill said, no, thank you. I really don't want that. And I think the person who had offered it was kind of offended or hurt because they were doing it from a place of love and compassion. But the person who would have received it said, I don't want anything else in my energy field right now. So exactly what you just said, we have to honor that. What do you think about going to someone's higher self?
I think you're right. I think it's a little bit tricky. So I think it's a nuanced thing, right?
Yeah.
But it does make this whole question makes me think about something I've been contemplating, for years. If I'm at TJ Maxx or Home Goods, I'll look for crystals that are for sale there because I feel like I don't know, I always worry about them. You've got
Hmm.
these like decorator people who are like, well, that'll look nice on this coffee table, but no one's going to know how to really care for that crystal or work for it if they aren't, into crystals. And I don't want them just gathering dust on a coffee table to look pretty in a Christmas photo. So I've always called those crystals that I buy there my crystal rescues. And now I'm thinking about all my crystals in my home. Are they all crystal rescues? Because there's no way the miners in these countries were like, do I have permission to take you? Do I have permission to take you? They were all just ripped from the earth.
That's a really, really good point. It's a really good point. And it's pretty reason because you've been into crystals for a long time now.
Yeah.
If you look at the timeline, this has been a stretch for you. And it's only been fairly recently that there's been a lot of talk about ethically sourced and how the crystals are removed and asking permission. That wasn't so much back when you started exploring this, was it?
Not at all. No. I mean, it shows how our consciousness is evolving and moving and growing because that wasn't even a thought. My concern was where did I buy the crystal? Like, is that a good
Right.
location? And then cleansing it energetically and physically, and then learning to work with it. But I didn't think about that. And I remember learning years ago about how lapis is mined, and there weren't a lot of good stories there. So I stopped selling my lapis lazuli bracelets on my site. I just stopped working with that stone because that it made me sad.
Hmm.
So yeah, something to think about.
And also something to think about, I think, if you're going to, this is kind of connected, kind of not. If you're going to gift someone a crystal, is ask if that's the crystal for them. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's important that if you're going to give someone something, it doesn't match up with their energy. Oh, this is pretty, this is cute, they'll like it. Or is it something that it's playing matchmaker with the crystal, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I definitely think this listener absolutely had an experience, not even with that tiny crystal. I think the whole mountain of the crystal family there.
Well, and it goes into that everything is there's a life to everything, and
Yeah.
we can call it animism, we can call it whatever, but the vibration, the frequency, and the just the fact that, especially with the crystals, they each have a unique purpose or a healing modality that can be traced back through so many different belief systems.
You know what this is making me think about? Do you remember reading that children's story to your boys about the like kind of arrogant rich little boy who was rude to everyone. And so, I don't know, a witch, a wise woman turned him into a rock.
Yes,
And
I
it was the
can't think of the name
parents'
of
like
it. Yes.
only child. And he was able to like roll closer to them, but he was a rock, so he couldn't talk. And I think at one point the mom sits on the rock and is just hysterically crying, like, where's our son?
Hmm.
And the whole story is about how like different people keep taking this rock and he just wants to go back. He eventually learns his lesson and is turned into a boy again and is a good boy ever since. But anyway, it makes you think about, these rocks like, oh, this is terrible. Listener, this is ruining my relationship with my crystals. Because now I'm looking at my big bowl of crystals going, are you guys homesick?
Well, that's why I think it's important to take them outside every now and again.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you get into the whole thing. So if you're looking around at all your crystals right now, and I did this recently, and I looked around and I thought, okay, I don't, what do you do? Where do you bring them if you know that you want to return them to the earth, but they're not even, you're not even on the right continent?
I don't know. I guess if you have a boat, you could return them to the ocean and hope they find it that way. No, that wouldn't be good. I guess you just give them the most loving home you can and ask that if they need to be reunited with a different area or a different person, just ask your guides to help that happen.
I love that.
You never know, like crazy things could happen. You could bump into someone and they're like, "Oh, I'm from New Zealand," and you have this stone that you feel belongs back in New Zealand. You're like, "I got a rock for you." You never know.
That's true. That's very true.
All right, let's move on to our next one.
Okie doke. About a year ago, I had some peaceful Hertz vibrations playing on the TV and my 10-month-old girl baby asleep in my arms. I didn't dare move and wake the baby. I decided to read an article on my phone about different works of art from around the world with the Virgin Mother Mary as the subject. I'm an art lover, and as I looked at the pictures of Mother Mary, I felt tingling in my third eye and the most overwhelming feeling of warmth and love. Tears came to my eyes. It was so touching, and the feeling of love was overpowering. I really felt Mary was with me and asked, "What message do you have for me?" The funny thing is, I was raised in the Mormon faith, and we don't pray to Mother Mary or saints. And in my current adult life, I'm very spiritual, but not religious. So I found it interesting that Mary was coming through to me. Soon after this happened, I found out I was pregnant. I think Mary's message was that I was pregnant. After years of not being able to have children, we now have two beautiful babies under 2. I have a picture of Mother Mary on my screensaver to remind me of this beautiful experience, and I find myself asking her for guidance on those hard days of motherhood. Well, I really, really love this because I believe in my heart any and all of the religious icons, beliefs, ascended masters are available to all of us.
Oh, I do too. I mean, this could be Kuan Yin. There are so many mother images that we have in all different cultures and religion, but the Mother Mary I know would never be like, did you receive your sacraments? Are you really even Catholic? Because if not, I just cannot answer this prayer. There's just no way she would do that. I've had a lot of beautiful Mary miracles in my life, and one of them, Denise, is so insignificant, but I feel like I just resonate with this listener. It was the night I gave birth to my first daughter, Olivia, and I was, sleeping in the hospital that night. And I had this dream that Mother Mary walked into my hospital room. And I remember in the dream, I was wearing jeans and a tank top. And you know me, like, am I a jeans and a tank top girl? No. And I was so embarrassed to be like that casual in front of Mother Mary. And she never said a word in the dream. She was wrapped in that beautiful light blue cloak that we often see her in.
Hmm.
And she just enveloped me in a hug. And
Oh,
it was so real. Like, I remember putting my chin on her shoulder and looking out the hospital window at the parking lot. Like, it was so real. And again, she never said anything, but I just felt that she was welcoming me into the folds of motherhood.
oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was really, like I said, simple but profound. So I do think that Mother Mary is a mother to us all. But again, if it doesn't resonate with your belief systems, every religion has a Mother Mary figure
Right.
because we all need that in our lives.
And it's the what it embraces the warmth, the love, the compassion, the safety, the nurturing. It's all of those.
Yeah. And God blessed 2 kids in 2 years. I
Ooh.
did that too. My first two are 17 months apart. I had 3 and 4 years, and I can't tell you how many friends were like, "Girl, you are crazy. You are never going to sleep again." Blah, blah, blah. That must have been so hard. I thought it was so much easier because I got it all done in one, I was dealt with diapers for 4 years. All in one section of my life. And now that they're all grown, they're so, so close and they have all the same memories together.
Oh.
I was so spread out in my family of origin. We have very few memories together because
Hmm.
they were always in college or off getting married. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you were able to have that miracle, and I'm so grateful you have your 2 babies with you.
Yes. It's a nice story.
Mary rocks. That's all I can say. All right, our next one says, but seriously, I have to add this. Mary has never, ever, ever not answered one prayer my heart has uttered, and
Right.
I use that word heart on purpose because we all have prayers with our minds, right? Like, oh, I really hope this happens, or please let this happen. But a prayer of your heart is different. It's something you truly, truly need and desire. And anytime I have said the Memoria prayer, that's like my favorite Mary prayer, and really prayed with my heart, that girl has always come through. I love her.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
a book recommendation. There's a really good book if you don't know anything about Mary that's like super, I found it interesting and lovely. It's called Looking for Mary. It's written by, remember that book? Was turned into a movie with Drew Barrymore called Riding in Cars with Boys.
Yes.
Okay, it's that author. So, she's a fantastic fiction writer. And this book is nonfiction, and it's about how she was raised Catholic, but for a variety of reasons that she tells you about, she's like, no to the church, really no to any religion for most of her adult life, happily. And then she can't stop buying Mother Mary statues. And it's like embarrassing. She'll be at a garage sale and she finds one. She'll be at an antique store and she finds one. A friend gave her one and she was like, the hell is this, And so she starts, because she's mad at the church and she's mad at God and, all of that. And so she starts down this journey and she ends up in Guadalupe. But I love that book.
Wow.
Great
I'll make sure to
example.
put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, it's just a good example of how Mary works in our lives.
Yes.
All right. Our next one says, I've been using oracle cards for myself since December. I started a daily ritual with my guides using one deck. And now, as I've been introduced to archangels, I use another deck with them. Yesterday, I was in awe when I shuffled 44 cards and came up with the exact spread 2 days in a row in the same order. How amazing is that? That is amazing. And I've had that happen to me too. Not a lot, and not 2 days in a row, but like sometimes I'll do Celtic cross readings for friends,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be like, "Yeah, I don't like that. Try it again." And because it's a friend and they don't really know a lot about tarot and the respect we're supposed to give it, I'll be like, "All right, fine," and I'll do it one more time. And it'll usually be maybe not all the same cards in the same order, but the future card or the outcome card will be the same. And I've had this happen with me personally when I do a 3 card spread. I never do a 2 card spread, but I do
No.
like a 3 card, like past, present, future, or problem, solution, outcome. And I've had that happen to me a couple of times.
Well,
It's powerful.
how many times have you been shuffling to get ready to do a spread and a card you'll get a jumper, one will jump out and you'll look at it, you'll acknowledge it and say, oh, and this, and then you move it back into the pile, you shuffle it back in and it shows up in the layout.
It happens so much that now when I have a jumper, I put it to the side
Yep.
and I
Yeah.
just say, like, let's keep that as like you know, a background, a root of this reading.
But I do think that more so with the Oracle, well, no, it happens with the Tarot and the Oracle cards. It will keep showing up and keep showing up because I have that happen all the time. I have certain decks I use after I journal in the morning, and I'll get the same card within this, like every, 3 out of 5 days, and I'll be like, okay, I'm paying attention. And I'll really try to make more of a connection with the card to see, well, what am I missing that you're still bringing it back to me?
Exactly. I wonder though how that happens.
Right.
Oh, I mean, are there guides in charge of Oracle spreads? And they're like, oh, Denise didn't get the message again. Who's on it now? Put your coffee down, Stan. You got to go shuffle those cards in that order for her. Or is it like Carl Jung said that it's our mind, it's our subconscious mind directing those cards?
How about when you ask for direction or guidance or you're mulling something over and the card is just so damn spot on with the answer. You can't ignore it. It's just like, oh, holy shit, how can this be so accurate? That seems like it's a combination of both.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a minute. When I do the cards for myself, and I'm just like, oh, let's see what it has to say, like very, non-committal, I'll have what you just said happen.
Mm-hmm.
When I am like in the throes of stress or anxiety or what is going to happen with this, and I go to the cards, every card I get has nothing to do with my anxiety, my worry, my stress, whatever it is. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And I'll shuffle it again and same thing. And it's almost like my guides are telling me, this is deeper than what the cards can show you, or you got to do this on your own or within. Have you ever had that happen?
All the time. And I think sometimes, I think I shared this a long time ago. I used to have 2 decks that I'd use in the morning and pull some cards with both. And one of them always aligned with what I wanted. Like it always gave me the answer that I wanted. And the other deck usually didn't. It was more realistic. And I realized that because I do think when we build a bond with a deck, whether it's Oracle or Tarot or Spirit cards or whatever they might be, we have an energetic imprint and exchange with that deck. That I really believe that on a subconscious level, that first deck was telling me, well, this is what I really want to have happen. This is what I'm hoping to have happen. But the other deck was being more objective about it. So I think sometimes we can find the answers we want, because how many times have you talked to people and said, but I did my cards and it said the man was going to show up, or I'd get the raise, or I'd get the promotion, and it never happened.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder, I mean, that, and when you were just saying about the stress and the anxiety, it's hard to separate out ego and fear sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like our prior question or story from our listener about Mother Mary. She starts off by saying she was listening to peaceful Hertz music.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, to me, that shows that the environment in which you are trying to reach out for assistance and help is really, really important. So if you are in that stressful, I gotta know, I gotta know, I gotta know mode, that's not the time to try to reach to your guides, Mother Mary, or the cards. You've got to calm yourself down, ground yourself. Gosh, maybe I should have just stood on a grounding mat during those times, right? Shuffled the
But
cards.
and the other part is of that is the baby. So does the baby work like a battery pack, similar to when professional mediums put people in the audience? They put other
Oh,
mediums in the
yeah,
audience. Would the clarity of that baby's vibration have made a stronger signal?
it could be.
I don't know.
Interesting. But yeah, I do think that when we're in the right space, and like this listener and her question was saying that she's been using the oracle cards as a daily ritual. That's creating a relationship. That's putting a positive intention out there. That's saying, I'm willing to do the work and show up every day to learn these cards and use them as a way to communicate with my higher self and my spirit. And I think that's when you have these really cool coincidences happen. But when you're like I was in those moments, just stressed out, being like, all right, Tarot, help me out. That's no,
Right.
that's not gonna.
And we've talked about this many, many times of how you word the question, how you set the intention, being open-minded, but I agree with you. I get the most clarity and the clearest answer or input is when I'm not hoping it to go one way or another, or when I'm not in a state of anxiety and stress.
Yeah, yeah. And can I just add as an aside to anyone who is like me, because I'm good at meditating. I'm good at centering myself, but it doesn't come easily. It's a practice, it's a muscle I have to really learn to work with and strengthen and flex every day. And when life gets like really like this summer has been so incredibly busy for me. I had to launch my third child off to college and help my oldest move into her grown-up apartment, and I got engaged and I had to travel at least one, usually 2 weekends every month this summer for work and one family trip. So it was just a lot. And I wasn't feeling super centered and focused on my meditation. And I certainly was not consulting my cards every day or anything close to what this listener was doing. I was just kind of moving through my to-do list. You know, those times where they're not bad times, they're just stressful, busy, busy times.
Very
And
much so.
I had this, and when I get like that, I really miss myself. I don't know how to explain. Like I miss my spiritual side. I miss having that time to just meditate, to just revel in silence and connection. And so I was just thinking one day, like, okay, what can I do for my spirit today? And I thought about that gift you got me years ago, the black obsidian mirror. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
scrying mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had bought Rosemary Ellen Guiley's book on scrying, and I so when you got me that, I used it, and it was at first it was a little spooky, but then I really liked it. Well, you think like I'm staring into a black mirror, uh,
Mm.
and seeing what appears, but it was a really good way. And anyway, all summer long, Black Obsidian keeps calling to me. When I was in
Oh.
Colorado, I picked up a beautiful piece at a crystal store. And I've noticed now that when I hold black obsidian, it's got this beautiful shiny side to it as well. It's very easy to just kind of get lost in your own thoughts when you're staring at it, but it calms my overthinking mind. And when you and I teach our classes, we get a lot of people who know they're intuitive, but they also outthink their intuition. And those
Yes.
are always my people because that's my biggest hurdle as well. And I've noticed that working with Black Obsidian has really helped calm that monkey mind mentality that I'm prone to. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who maybe has a little hyperactive energy going on in their life right now, or having a hard time calming their gotta go thoughts down long enough. Try to work with some of the black stones. Shungite I love as well. I think black tourmaline is fantastic. Hematite I really enjoy, but the black obsidian has, I don't know, it's just been calling to me this summer. And PS to any crystal lovers on a budget, it's super inexpensive and easy to find too.
Okay, and I love the thought of, yes, it helps you centered, feel more grounded, shut down the monkey mind, but also works as a protection of all the extraneous energies that are coming into our lives right now.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's everywhere. There's a lot coming at us from all directions right now with weather and politics and news and just
Hmm.
personal stuff going on in so many people's lives. And so I think as empaths, we have to work a little harder to ground and clear and balance our energy. So I think so many times, I know for me, when I got started on this, I was like, "Ooh, I wanted all the fancy crystals, you know? I'm still looking for phenocite, but I wanted all the big stuff." And now I'm like kind of back to basics. Like I love
Hmm.
hematite, I love jasper, I love rose quartz, all of that. But this black obsidian, just wanted to recommend people give it a try.
Beautiful.
Okay. Anything else we should add?
I think we're good. This was
Okay.
this was fun and a real nice variety.
Yeah, for sure. I love hearing from everyone. So we thank you guys so much for reaching out. Remember, you can email us enlightenedempaths at Gmail, or you can Facebook us. Just find us at Enlightened Empaths. Have a great week, everyone. We hope you have a Mother Mary miracle or a beautiful crystal experience or a wonderful sign from your loved ones on the other side. Remember, as always, to show up, do great work, and share your light.
Take care.